Hi everybody, Mature Simmer here. So I've spent this morning getting ready to go ahead and plant. Again, having a hard time keeping track of time across the various servers, so I'm glad I checked today because this being May is a problem. Yeah, you can see I've obviously let the cows start to back off, so I'm going to have to deal with that as well and get them fed so that things can start going. I probably want to do that now because otherwise the time I spend harvesting is just going to be time that then they just continue to deteriorate instead of moving in the right direction. So as it sits, it's going to take days for the barn to top off again, which means it's going to consume things faster than it should. So, yeah, it's out of hay, which is always kind of the trigger, it seems. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. So let me get that done. You've seen me do that. I'll chat with you while I am working the field. So I'll see you in a bit. I am finally back. So it's been a bit, which I figured it would be, which is why I figured I'd not spend all that time doing it. So I've gotten the barn filled. I also had to include mineral feed in that, which I had seen. Just got some slurry over, as you saw, so that the BGA can get running and we can start making some money on that and get going. It seems that the BGA just ran out a couple days ago, so a couple months ago. So that's not that bad, but I think the feed may have been earlier, but perhaps not, because they eat quite a bit, and so it takes a little bit. Having to bounce back and forth with some real-life things as well, so a little bit of a delay in time, as you can see, between that conversation and this. But yeah, at this point, just to circle around, make sure I've covered it all. Move slurry, topped off literally all 4 items in the barn that are needed. And topped off, again, is relative. I mean, I did full truckloads to top things off, so I think we're at like 117,000 instead of 147,000 on one of the products. The thing I was starting to say before I realized I needed to divert is I had started here and gone and kind of filled everything up. And then most importantly, I mentioned we have this new crop rotation mod that has been placed into FSN that we need to consider. So looking through, since I had planted barley out in the field last, I needed to find something that was the best output I could get that was plantable today. Oats is the thing I've settled on, and then next time we'll go from oats to something else. Now the rotation planters, if you used the feature in FS19, if you had seasons, the seasons mod is where you would be doing that. Okay, I was trying to figure out if I had that done or not. Let's see, cedar is on. Oh, it's just not lowered. Okay, so there we go. And I'm gonna immediately start doing the line, because otherwise I know I'll forget. So there we go. And I probably should just lock in on it, and that way I don't have to sit there and steer as I go. And then I'll just do my best once I turn around on the other end. But if you've used the crop rotation in FS19 with seasons, this seems to work in a similar way, in that it does look back, I think, 2 crops to determine what happens. So the barley and oats choice is going to impact things with the 3rd crop as well. And we're going to see different settings, because I already looked at like the next thing, and I think if I grow wheat, I can get 1.1, which means I'm going to get a 10% improvement, but that then makes it also look like the oats get a 5% improvement now, which obviously they're not going to right now. So it's a little confusing. Yeah, I don't think I can do this without hitting the tree, which is why I started to turn, but I didn't want to leave that little corner of the field unplanted. So, and then this always ends up being a bit of an issue, because the planter turns and then there's always like a little tiny bit that is sitting here unplanted that appears, but maybe the way I kind of jiggered around there, it looks like I don't have a tiny little yellow spot that got ignored by the way I turn things around, because normally I just do a turnaround and I miss a bit, but that worked out, kind of dancing around a bit, so good on me for that. But yeah, I wanted to make sure everything was filled because it makes the tracking a little bit easier. And then, obviously, for running my financial spreadsheet on the side, making sure that what I'm doing makes sense, that all works. So speaking of that and the finances, that's probably the next thing that makes sense to chat about. So now that I've had, I think this now will be my 4th crop here in Hobo's Hollow, I guess is what it's really called, Hobo's Hollow. I have, at least some data specifically on this map, and what I've seen is, for the most part, regardless of which crop I planted, my profit has pretty much been exactly the same. Exactly's got a margin, obviously, but I think it's been like around 80,000-90,000. So it's been less of a concern as to what is happening with that. Let's see, gotta lower this because I can hear it running, so I know I'm in good shape there. But now we'll run up and then we'll run along the top and we'll be good. So that tends to be what happens in Farming Simulator, with customs being removed from the mix, at least at this point with what's happening. And even when it comes back, I think it's going to be more in line with the pricing on the server. We may not see anything different, but what was happening before in FSN is, because the prices were potentially so different, things operated in a different manner. Back again as I'm finishing up here. So I had a point in time, had to jump and do something, and was unable to keep recording and talking, so went ahead and just kept doing the work so that I could get what I needed done. But that gets me here to the end, and obviously I was thinking, maybe I'd have a little bit more to share this episode, but I need to fit the work in when I can do it, and unfortunately that just didn't coincide with also being able to record video and audio and give you information as well. So the last piece as well, auctions are operational. I think I mentioned that in the last episode. So they are operating again on the website. They give us an indicator that they've added that show, hey, there's X amount of auctions pending. I think that's across everybody, because I think when I first looked at it, when they put it up there, it said 50 were pending. Now it says 128 are pending. They did say it would take a few days to probably ramp up fully, but we've passed the point where they felt now they'd be kind of fully there, and so that might be the jump from the 50 to the 128. But for our server specifically, there's not an auction that has appeared yet. So of those 128 auctions that are pending, that some of ours might be in there, But if some of those 50 that were pending have cycled through, they've not been for our servers. So not quite sure how that's looking yet, how that's going to work and so forth. The other piece they did add in, which is certainly intriguing, and is going to, I get it adds some realism, but it's obviously going to create some cost pressure as well. NPCs are now going to be bidding with us as well. So in the past, what we've been able to do in most cases, and what I found in FSN servers I've been a part of, is the FMs talk to each other and say, hey, I'm interested in this plot that just came up, and if anybody else is, there's conversations had, but many times people are like, no, that's fine, go ahead, and so that everybody knows they have a clear path, and they have to just make that bid and then wait. But what we've been informed of is we can't just be passive with that any longer, because an NPC could come in and outbid us, and then basically it stays unowned at that point. I mean, I'm assuming we're not suddenly going to have a bunch of different NPCs owning things. I assume it just stays FSN owned and then comes back in potentially into the auction pool later. And so, once again, I don't know how aggressive these NPCs are going to be. I think there was some indication, like, there could be some variation, so it seems like maybe there's some randomness in the algorithm of how this works. So we'll see how that all plays out. I'll try to monitor a few of them, even if they're not pieces I want. But a key step that we've been waiting on, which is auctions being back, they are back. We just now are kind of in that waiting position to have plots of land here on our servers appear. And I just need 2 of them here, 2 little ones, but there's a lot of other land on the server that is FSN owned. So we'll see how that all goes. So tomorrow we'll be back again per the normal cycle, getting weeds taken care of and getting those sprayed, so there will be that work going on. And we'll take a look at what else there might need to be done at that point, if anything. So hope you've enjoyed this. I'm pretty sure it's going to be brief. I know I've got hours of recording, but most of it is just me doing things, or in some cases the equipment sitting around because I had to step away for a bit and so forth. So I've got a lot of time in video, but I don't know how much will actually make it off the cutting room floor for you to see, because there's only so much that I was actually active in that would be sensible to share. So it'll be what it'll be, and I'll see you next time.